Welcome to Marifado. It is clear that every sane human is troubled by the opacity of the future. Everyone always wishes to have a better sense of what lies ahead, especially with the current COVID pandemic ravaging and destroying our sense of Ubuntu as well as our world. How can we get this information in order of us to predict the future? Perhaps we have to look to the past. Surprisingly, our topic is subject specific. Do you use your divination cup? Let's continue to look at this topic. Do you own a divination cup? What is divination? Is it the way we can run this life competently? Follow us as we unmask some cardinal fantasies and facts about divination and other associated rituals. Marifado is here to help you independently divine your own future. First, divination comes from the Latin divinare, which means to foresee or to be inspired by God or by a divinity. We now know what God stands for. It's not the ultimate creator. Divination is one of the methods used from ancient times, which is the art or practice that seeks to foresee or foretell future events or to discover hidden knowledge. Divination usually involves the interpretation of omens, or if you are really lucky, the assistance from supernatural powers will be yours. It is on record that secret societies hoarded all critical information and knowledge from all over the earth. And today, we are relying in these organizations to know the possibilities of tomorrow. In our own Bantu tradition, we know divination from this PDF that is indicated here on academia.h. A divination system is a standardized process deriving from a learned discipline based on an extensive body of knowledge. This knowledge may or may not be literally expressed during the interpretation of the oracular message. So you have to know certain things to interpret this knowledge. So in our tradition, for us to know this, we use ukubula sangoma, kushopera, bonohe, kupiga ramli, ukuvumisa, iwose, ife afose, indebe yokuvumisa, kikombe cha uganga, mukombe wokuuka. These are all tools that are engaged in divination. We had our own places where the oracles spoke, like the Matopos oracle, which is now silent. After guiding us to win the war of liberation, it went, Mom, why? Can we use it? And can we use these other systems? The diviner may utilize a fixed corpus such as in the Yoruba Ifa Odu verses, or a more diffuse board of esoteric knowledge. This is the Ifa, which we are told has 256 scientific corpus of permutations and combinations to divine and to find what's going on. The Ifa divination is a complex and elaborate system usually considered by many scholars and academics to be one of the oldest and most accurate divination system in the whole world. So these are some of the systems that we can use. So it goes on to say from this website by Ifaselwa Fagbeni Aureni on Tumblr, Ifa teaches both the ability to invoke and the ability to make use of forces manifest through divination comes as a result of initiation. The process of initiation gives the initiate the power of the word, known in Yoruba as Ofo Ase. Initiation also tempers the head of the initiate in such a way that communication with his spirit is possible without doing harm to the consciousness of the diviner. So this is a book that you can order and study, because these are the systems that Marifado recommends for us to continue. So, do you have your divining cup? The mass majority do not have. Why? Because the mass majority of Bantus are under the gospel mantra. As such, they are Christians and they are deliberately ignorant on divination. They have been taught that it is condemned in the Bible. But surprisingly, the Bible records people that used it. That's why I'm saying, and that's why I've said Christians, Muslims, and the Jews or Hebrews do not know the Bible, the Torah, or even the Quran. They listen to the teachers. They don't study it on their own. When you study these books, you will never remain a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. You go to the source of these books, which I'll demonstrate the source of those books in here in the case of divination. It says divination is false prophecy and foretelling. It says witchcraft is gaining new victims by getting people partake in its witchcraft unknowingly. It said necromancy is communicating with the dead. So that's what they say. But in Acts 1:26, we read that they cast lots and the lot fell to Matthias. So he was added to the 11 apostles. They cast lots, so they made some divination there. Divination is condemned and at the same time accepted in the Bible. So Christians have a fluid position which eventually leads them to obey a selected denominational edict. So if you read Judges 6:36 to 40, you find that Gideon had to do some divination to prove whether the word that he had received from his divinity was going to be fulfilled. He says, so Gideon said, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, look, I shall put a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece only, and it is dry on the ground, then I shall know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said. Verse 38 says, and it was so. When he rose early in the next morning, and squeezed the fleece together, he wrung the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water, a divination bowl. Not a bucket, but a bowl, a divination bowl. You don't use a bucket there because you are divining. So if you read Deuteronomy 18:9 to 14, which we might not read, we're giving you the verse here, it deliberately goes on to describe things that should never be practiced by these same people that are divining here. It says, when you come into the land which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter pass through fire, practice witchcraft, soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination. These are all some aspects of divination. But we have seen Gideon divining there. Even a watch was used to divine. You go to 2 Kings 28 to 11. Hezekiah doubted the message that he was told by the prophet Isaiah. And he asked that the watch or the time should move 10 degrees backwards instead of forward. And it happened exactly like that. It says, and Isaiah the prophet called to the Lord, and he brought the shadow back 10 steps, by which it had gone down on the steps of hers. It would have taken 5 years for it to do that. But it moved. So this is something that Christianity has blinded a lot of people. Now, we come to one of their heroes, Joseph, who had the Holy Spirit, who made a lot of predictions. We will have another set of videos where we will deal with where Joseph got the stories that are written in the book of Genesis. So let us ask some Christian scholars why Joseph, who had the Holy Spirit, had a divination cup. This is quite interesting and you will laugh. You will laugh a lot. So you go to this website, gotaquestion.org. It says, there is no indication in the passage that Joseph actually used the cup for divination. So he lied. Because he said, don't you know that I use this for my divination? Instead, Joseph may have claimed to use it to divine matters in order to raise the stakes and incite more fear in his brothers. He was lying. Either way, Joseph was lying or he was engaged in divination. It is possible, though unlikely, this is one of the few cases in which God permitted the use of object to discern his will. Why? This man has the Holy Spirit. Why then have this issue of divination? I've seen some Rastafarian movements, other scholars trying to run away from this. The fact is the divination cup is used to divine. It is used what it is used. You cannot say you have a divination cup and you don't use it for divination. That's a lie. Zapustata is not allowed. Other examples include the castings of lots. It's clear, straightforward. Lots are cast. The priest's use of Urim and Thummim. Those are special lots. And Gideon's use of the fleece, we've identified it. Then he goes on, this scholar goes on to say, if Joseph did not practice divination with the silver cup, it was not divination in the pagan sense. How is it not divination in the pagan sense? Is there a pagan divination and a non-pagan divination? This is a lie, a total lie. These scholars are just jumping around. Anyway, last, he says divination was common in ancient Middle East cultures. There was no Middle East. Middle East came 60, 70 years ago. It never existed. So, number one, you are lying. Especially among its leaders. That is a lie. Because there were priest castes who were not necessarily leaders who could divine. They were ordinary people who could divine. Here he goes on to say, in fact, Laban once said to Jacob, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. So, here is it. Why didn't the Lord reveal it to Jacob? So these whole stories are just cooked up stories that confuse a lot of Christians, a lot of Hebrews, a lot of Muslims. And then they go away and say divination is evil. But there it is. Their scholars are totally, completely confused because they have lost all the connection of the origin of all these religions that were bastardized from the main source. No wonder why Christians are thoroughly confused when you have their top scholars explaining these things this way. As an awakened Muntu, you must understand and practice some form of divination. There is no way you can survive on this planet, in this planet, today, in this current environment, if you cannot practice some form of divination, trustworthy, foundational, and correct form of divination. Okay, there is active, complex divination and a passive divination. If you cannot do active, complex divination practices, you must do passive divination. There appears to be three models of the actual practical methods of divination. Psychic, it involves spirit possession. Psychological, it involves self-suggestion or auto-suggestion, as well as suggestion. Or the diviner interviewing a client, we call it huka, uku. And then there is the causal, which is one where you use casting of lots or casting of objects. So we must understand that it is necessary for you then to own a divination cup. We will continue to show how you can do it. In Southern Africa, there are generally 4 types of professional diviners. There is Izinyanga Zestupa or thumb doctor. These give diagnoses that are answered by people striking the ground with rods. A second type is the Izinyanga, those who ate guniti, impepo, or incense. A third type includes the Amapula Izniti, who use sticks, and the Amatambo Hakata, who uses bones and all other tools. They cast these and they employ these sticks, which leap out of their lap and give them an answer. Sometimes it goes to the part of the body and they know how to interpret it. Lastly, there are abedlozi, mashabi. These are spirit or izinyangas, lamadlozi, amatongo. Amatongo are some people that are the spirits of the dead who wait on a particular diviner and speak in low whistling tones and assist them. So you have to know some of these. These are complex, advanced systems. You find them all over amongst melanin-dominant human beings. All these take years of training to qualify. There are many taboos. There are many conditions. And today we have many false diviners who are using tricks or magic instead of the real skills. One big test for this is to notice that they do not use electricity when they are performing their job. Also that they do not drink beverages like Coca-Cola. And the last and very, very important, that they do not charge for their services. So if you go to any one of these professionals and they charge you anything, then they are more likely to be in it for commercial value. If they are called by the Spirit, that Spirit will inspire you to give him or her something. It is necessary, as I've said, for you to then own your own divination cup. How and why? Let us answer this. You must master passive divination because it gives you spiritual linkages, living spiritual linkages, live spiritual linkages. If you do not practice some form of passive divination, I'm sorry, you are only logically connecting to your own ancestry and your own realms, because it is inside you where you need these linkages to connect with the universe. Ancients foretold a promise that is going to be fulfilled these days, that a mass of Bantus shall resurrect, an army of mighty men and women of foresee shall rise up, and then they will use their totems to build powerful linkages with the divinities. It's happening. A lot of people are going this way and leaving Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, which are useless, oppressive, slave-based religions. We believe practical knowledge and an invincible, thoughtful life is key to this awakening. To do so, you must be disconnected from Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and all other false religions, including even Bantu diviners, and begin a spiritual communication yourself using perhaps passive divination process. How can you do that? You need this goud. And we want to quote one of our own Nigerian thinker in China who said, "We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want." Lao Tzu, our brother there, said a powerful statement. Think about that. By sanctifying your own divination bowl or a cup, you may have to use a pumpkin hard shell mukombe as a gourd or calabash for inviting your divinatory senses to a juice out of your inner temples so you can grow in divinatory wisdom and use. Very powerful. What will this divination cup or bowl represent in your Ubuntu way of life? I don't know. All I can promise is try this cup. You must have it and keep it. Lastly, no one wins a lotto jackpot if they had not purchased a ticket. Who knows? But I'm not saying this is lotto. This is direct, because divination only needs you to provoke it to start its work in your life, actively or passively. You can be connected to your future and become the captain of your destiny. If you feel you need more details on how to sanctify your own divination cup, do not hesitate and send us an email on john@marifado.com. This preacher Rabbi Elam Drizulu saying, subscribe to our channel, Committee Brew Ethics. Till we meet again, Tatenda Siabonga Henkos.